So we've been paying student loans back now for what, 2 months, whatever it is. This total amount paid for me, this is mine, by the way, that I've been doing since whatever. I'm doing 100 bucks every bi-weekly, just a little bit more than the minimum, to help with the interest. But I mean, fuck. And then I just looked at it, it's gonna be like, I don't know, for every $1,000 I'm spending, I'm only gonna knock down the principal like 125 to 150 bucks at it. So 15% of what I pay goes towards the principal, which is, lovely. So I don't know if this isn't like the main problem. I mean, I'm sure everybody else's looks the exact same, and I'm not even doing the minimums, and it's still this bad. I mean, I'm doing just above it, but it's not like I can afford much more than that. Anyway, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you, sir, but that's exactly how literally all loans work. All loans work just like that. In the beginning, a whole bunch of your payment is going to the interest rate, and barely any of it is going to the principal. In order for you to make it go to the principal, you have to make your minimum payment and then call them and say, "Hey, I want this next payment to go to the principal." That's literally how all loans worked, and it's always worked like that. I did the same thing when I paid off my car. Even though I could go and make a principal payment after I made my initial payment, they always gave me the runaround. So I actually had to save up all the money on two vehicles, save up all the money, just give it to them to get them out of my hair. So out of $900 payment that he's made, and mind you, he said he had these loans for 2 months, only 2 months, so it's not a long time at all. So out of $900 payment, 118 is going to principal, and 781 is going to interest. It must have an extremely high interest rate because that's a lot. That is a lot. But like I said, if you want to get that out of your hair, I wouldn't even make an extra payment. I would just make your minimum monthly payment and just save up the rest and give it to them. But that's only if you're serious about paying off these loans, which damn near nobody is, honestly.
I have a master's degree in student services in higher education. I've worked at 2 different schools, and I've worked in admissions and financial aid. So I know what I'm talking about. Please listen to me and stop listening to these random people on TikTok. Also, I wrote an entire paper in grad school. It was like my big project over the student debt crisis. I know this shit is real, and I know that it's a huge burden on millions of us. Stop listening to these people on TikTok saying, if you send this email, submit this form, call these people, your loans are going to be forgiven, because they're not. Y'all still got to pay your student loans regardless of what happens with the Department of Education. These loan providers work with the Department of Ed to loan us money for school. When you take out money for school, they send those loans to these private loan servicers. But because you got it through the Department of Education, they're still eligible for some loan forgiveness programs. But the reality is that those loan forgiveness programs are probably going to go away too. Y'all have got to pay your loans. You don't owe the Department of Education money. You owe these private loan providers money, and they are going to want their money. Stop listening to random people on TikTok.
Yeah, and he's absolutely right. I've been hearing a lot of people around TikTok talking about how you can send this email or send them a form, file something with the court, and they can get your loans forgiven. None of that crap is going to work. Absolutely none of it is going to work. If it was that easy, a lot of people would be doing it, and a lot of people would be having success when doing it. It's not happening. The only way you're going to get rid of the student loans is if you pay for them. That is it. Unless you went to one of these fraudulent schools where you can actually go to court and prove that they defrauded you, there is no other way to get rid of these loans other than paying for them. Now, I know a lot of you guys are saying that it's unfair that you have to pay all these loans at the amount that they are now than they were when you first got them, but you also didn't do what you were supposed to do, because there was a lot of people who went on income-based payment plans. And I actually didn't know this, but they're supposed to let the government know when they get a raise so that they can adjust their monthly payment. A lot of y'all didn't do that. And y'all been getting raises throughout the year, making more and more money, yet your student loan payment is still based on your initial income that you had when you applied for income-based payment. So you never got your payment adjusted. That's your fault.
Whenever people complain about student loan forgiveness and say, oh, you should just pay for itself, it's bullshit. And I'm going to tell you why. So my name's Angel. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. I paid for all of them myself except for one loan my mom was able to take out for me in my sophomore year of college. But other than that, I paid for everything myself through cash and through loans and grants, etc. And in I started my bachelor's in 2009. In 2011, I took out 2 federal loans that were $5,000 each, among other loans.
Okay,
And
$10,000.
those loans have been being paid for since 2011 when I took them out. I graduated in 2013, but I was paying on my loans when I was in college. And I got my master's degree in 2018, and I eventually refinanced some of my loans because they were such high interest rates that nothing was going to the principal. But the 2 loans that I still have balances on, those are the original federal loans that I took out from 2013. Tell me how 2 $5,000 loans, $10,000, I still have a balance of $2,800, and I have made payments on those loans since then.
So wait, she's got 2 loans from 2013 that were $5,000 each, and she still hasn't paid them off. It's been over 10 years, and she still hasn't paid them off. Something's going on here, and I don't think it's the interest rate. She just hasn't been paying them as much as she thinks she is, because there is no reason why anyone should still have a debt that's $10,000 from 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. That's insane.
You're telling me in 14 years, I have not paid off those loans. And do I have $2,800 to pay them off? Absolutely. But the reason why I didn't is because I used to work in nonprofits. So I was planning on being eligible for the public student loan forgiveness program. But I realized at the time that program was so messed up that so many of my payments were not counting as qualified payments that it would make more sense for me to refinance some of those loans of those like really high 6 and 7% interest rates than wait for the 10 years or 120 eligible payments for my loans to be forgiven. So I have since paid off the majority of my undergrad and my master's degree, but those 2 loans, I am just paying the payments that are on there, and it's 14 years later, and I have not paid them off because the interest rates were so high at the time.
No, you didn't pay them off because you didn't bother to pay them off. Like she said, she has the money to pay them off, but she was banking on income-based repayment, and then I guess the discharging of your loans after 120 payments to get rid of her loans. But for $10,000, $10,000 is not a lot of money for a student loan. It really isn't. And the fact that she's had these loans for 14 years and she's been playing around with them ever since, hoping that taxpayers foot the bill for this, is absolutely insane. Lady, stop playing around and pay off your freaking loans. $10,000, I can pay that off in a couple months. Come on now.
Tell me how that is legal. I don't care what anyone says. If it was just the principal, I could have paid my loans off 14 years ago. But the fact that there is that high of interest and this is the situation that we're in as a country, ridiculous. I'm fortunate to be able to have paid so much extra on my loans and again, paid off everything else other than this little bit, which I'll probably pay off, but it's just the principle of it. I worked in nonprofits for over a decade. I have never missed a loan payment ever since my loans originated. And they're still not paid off. And the only reason why the majority of them are paid off is because I refinanced and pared it down so it was a 5-year loan instead of a 10 or 20 or whatever it was originally. It's sickening and criminal, and I don't care what anyone says. There should be student loan forgiveness or at minimum more regulation on student loan interest rates.
Not for you, though. Not for you, because you've been playing around with this loan for 10 years. You still have, for over 10 years, you still got them $10,000 loans. Absolutely not. Because unless she hasn't been working for the past 14 years, which she says she's been working a nonprofit, she's made at least $300,000 in 14 years. And if you make that in 14 years, that's really pitiful. $300,000 in 14 years. She could have been paid these loans off if she really wanted to. But like I said, she was banking on taxpayers to foot the bill for her student loans, when she could have paid these damn loans a long time ago, even with a high interest rate. And people like this always have an excuse as to why things are against them. You know, it's everyone else's problem but theirs. As always, she has that exact mindset because these loans only stuck around because you wanted them to stick around.
I don't know why, but I've seen a handful of videos, both today and yesterday, talking about student loans. So I just want to throw this out there because the comment section are making me rage-filled.
Yeah, comment
If
sections
you
are
are blessed
crazy.
to not have taken out student loans and not fallen for the lie that is you need to go to college, you'll make more money and you'll pay them back and it won't be a problem, great on you. I am so happy for you. If you've been one of the people that have been able to pay them back, great on you. Love that for you. But if you're sitting there being like, you just need to pay them back, you just need to pay them back, you knew what you were getting into. No. We did not understand what capitalization every single day meant. What's more importantly, we didn't understand what it meant when our interest wasn't going to be fixed. We just did not understand that. But what most of us really, really want is the interest to be under control. The idea that interest is capitalizing every single day, some of us are making payments and our amounts going up, despite paying thousands upon thousands of dollars. For example, I have $221,000 in debt, and I've been out of school, completely out of school, since 2010. I pay just under $2,000 every month. $1,300 of that
Goes to
goes
interest.
towards the interest that accumulated that month. I have no problem paying back these. I just want to make headway. I want to pay $2,000 and make headway on it. If interest rates were fixed at a low interest rate, a couple percent, banks would still make bank on it. But we would be able to get out of the crushing debt. We would be able to have kids. We'd be able to buy houses. We would be able to buy vacations. We'd be able to afford living. We would be able to afford to give money to charity and help other people. But that's not our reality. Student debt doesn't just affect us, it affects the entire economy.
No, it mostly affects you. But what's crazy about what you said is just that you can afford to get a house, you can afford to have kids, you can afford to go on vacations. There are a whole bunch of people who have student loans who are still doing that. And now it's coming back to bite them in the butt because they didn't think to take care of it. They thought to put it on income-based payment plan so that their payments are as small as possible so they can pay as little as possible. But what about the people who actually, went to college and paid for it themselves? The parents who saved up money throughout the years and paid for college for their kids. They don't get reimbursed for it. Because I remember I was watching a documentary about the student loan crisis and Elizabeth Warren was in it. And a father came and confronted her. She was like, "Oh, you want to give student loan forgiveness? Like, do I get my money back? Since I paid for my daughter's entire school, had to work all these extra hours to make sure my daughter graduated with no loans?" She said no. She pretty much said no. As a matter of fact, let me bring up the clip for you guys so I can see exactly what I'm talking about.
I just want to ask one question. My daughter's getting out of school. I've saved all my money. She doesn't have any student loans. Am I going to get my money back?
Of course not.
So you're going to pay for people who didn't save any money, and those of us that did the right thing get screwed.
No, it's not anybody that's free. When we
Of
started,
course we did. My buddy had fun, bought a car, went on vacations. I saved my money. He made more than I did. But I worked a double shift, worked extra. My daughter works, she was 10. So you're laughing at me. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. We did the right thing, and we get screwed.
Lou, how does she walk away from this?
Well, I don't think she does, and I think the fact that we're focusing on it suggests there will be a lot of people also focusing on it. The man's right. If you're sitting there borrowing a fortune as a student in college right now, in most cases you're paying, it's a subsidy for indoctrination by the left-wing academics, and nothing more than that, because there is no marketplace. There is no performance standard. There is no metric by which you're going to be judged. And by the way, I think the most important is how well are you doing after you get out of school? And if you walk out with $100,000 in debt, a degree in liberal arts, and are going to think you're going to have a good life, buy a home right away, you're living in la la land. And by the way, parents have a responsibility to tell the kid, don't do it. They're perfectly good community colleges. There are wonderful technology schools. There are wonderful ways to get an education. But turning your future over to an academic institution to which you're indebted for $100,000 or more, it's a disgusting offense.
And the irony is that this is Elizabeth Warren, the woman who was getting $300,000 a year for teaching one course. Yeah. That's where your money's going if you're paying these huge fees.
Yep, all this money is going to these damn professors. You're covering all your professor salaries, and they're not really teaching you stuff that you really need to really make it in this world. It's really crazy how they get you with this school stuff. But you've seen it right here. Man asked him, am I getting my money back? She said, of course not, and laughed at him. You think student loan forgiveness is fair? Absolutely, it's not fair at all. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see y'all next time.